Hey, we made it to episode 4 of Casual Critics. I am your host, Anthony Dane, and with me tonight is Mike Linetti.
Hi.
Hey. Unfortunately, Josh Bratton wasn't able to join us tonight. He's got a prior engagement, so it's just going to be the two of us chatting about what's been going on this last month and this last year. It is now
We apologize
2017.
in advance.
What happened last month? It's January. We're January 2017. A lot of stuff happened last year, and we got a lot of stuff on the horizon this coming year. Um, we got a couple of things that we're going to be talking about. Most recently, let's see, what other games
Yeah.
have we been playing this month? We're going to do a little overview of 2016 with a nice little list. Actually, there's been a lot of channels out there who have been posting their like game of the year or their best story, best graphics, best character sort of thing. So we're going to do that a little bit too from 2016. The main event though that I cannot wait to talk about is Resident Evil. That's why we're here tonight.
Oh yeah.
In fact, I had to pull myself out of the VR just to talk to you because otherwise I'd be doing that right now. So we're gonna talk
He's
a little bit.
playing it right now.
If I was, that would you'd hear me scream every 20 seconds, and that's kind of fun. In fact, actually, I got a few videos up on our channel right now of initial
Mm,
reactions of Resident Evil in VR, and I got a
those are
couple more.
good. I like them.
They're pretty interesting. In fact, I got a big project coming up here where we're gonna do a four-person review on people into VR who have never actually played video games or not privy to such a thing. Talk a little bit about what's coming out next month, what to look forward to in the upcoming months this year, and pretty much the itinerary for tonight. So let's jump right into. Before we talk about last year, let's just talk about what we've been doing so far since our last time we met before the holidays.
Sounds good. I like it.
All right. What have you had on your plate lately, Mike?
I mean, I'll talk about. I finally finished Final Fantasy 15. It was, hit and miss. Overall, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the combat. I thought the story was a little bit too discombobulated, but it's a 10-year development cycle. What can you expect?
Well, yeah, plus
Uh,
they said that the DLC is going to help kind of close the gap on a lot of the story issues.
Yeah, but I feel like to get the complete story, you shouldn't need the DLC. And I mean, it's pretty obvious where the DLC is going to come in. It's like when Prompto falls off the train, when Gladiolus disappears for a chapter, and when Ignis gets injured. So I feel like that's where the DLC is going to be.
Yeah, and when we did this podcast in November, that's when it came out.
You were the furthest one along, I believe.
That's true. We had during our Final Fantasy podcast, we had a couple of questions about that where it was
Yeah.
like, what do you expect to happen with the DLC, and without
Yeah.
kind of obvious where those stories
Mm,
would lead, and just like you
yeah.
confirm, it's so true.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it might be in my top five. It's not in my top three, but I mean, I thought it was decent. I felt like the combat system saved it just because, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Final Fantasy, but like a turn-based RPG in 2017, I feel like would have started to show its age a little bit.
Oh, true. We need to keep coming up with new ways to innovate gameplay.
Yeah, and I mean, they like the system so much. I mean, the rumor is that's what the Final Fantasy remake system is going to be. It's going to be live action like Kingdom Hearts. So
I wouldn't be
that'll
mad
be
about that.
interesting.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
all for it. In fact, that was the
Yeah.
big draw for me when I started playing Final Fantasy 11 and 14, the MMOs.
Yep.
Because like 11 was the first one to do that, where the enemies were out in the real world and you could see them.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
God,
fun.
what was that? PS2?
Yeah, PS2
Damn.
dial up. Oh.
Oh man, we're showing our age right there.
Yeah. What is Wi-Fi?
Yeah. I
What else
played
you
a
been
little
playing?
bit of Just Cause 3. I bought that in a sale a while ago. I finally fired it up. It's Just Cause. You blow shit up and you play as a man with infinite parachutes. It's pretty fun.
What do you mean
Um,
infinite parachutes?
Oh man, dude, he has an infinite supply. It's just like one of those games where it's like, you know what, I got a half hour after work, I want to unwind. I'll take over this military base, or I'll strap rockets to this car and see how far I can go. It's just mindless, indulgent fun. And it's
One of those,
um
one of those you could just jump right in and start playing.
yeah.
Kind of
Oh
like a
yeah, and it's with this one, like the second one was like kind of testing, like, towing that line, like about ridiculousness. And in the third one, they just fully embrace it. Like they realize that the main protagonist is like immortal and crazy and with like a flick of his wrist, and they just fully embrace it. It's just comedy, it's like a bad B movie, it's just
Oh, so it's
they
kind of like a
embrace the
joke game,
stupidity. It's like what?
kind of like having one of those joke games, like the.
Yes. No, it is exactly like that. And you're basically just, you got this whole map. It's open world. You can fly and go wherever you want. You can just blow shit up. It's just a wild game. Other than that, let's see here. We played Division for a hot minute. And then the bulk of my time, which you and Josh have given me shit about, is Stardew Valley.
Yeah, in fact, I saw my cousin, who was actually on our second episode with us. I see
No.
him playing that a lot.
Dude, I don't know what it is. It's just I have like 110 hours on my current save file. It's just chill. I'm gonna go tend to my, cranberries. I'm gonna go give some gifts to villagers. Oh, I'm married. Oh, what do you know? We're having a kid. Oh, I'm gonna go build a barn, get some more pigs so I can get truffles. It's just chill, relaxing gameplay. Like you're not fighting anything, you're not killing anything, you're just relaxing, you're building a farm. I mean,
So, can you compare it to something else because like I'm not 100% familiar as to what that game really is. Like I get the concept, but we'll compare it to something.
I don't know if it'd be anything you'd be familiar with. The closest thing I personally could compare it with was the Super Nintendo version of Harvest Moon, which is basically the same thing. Your grandpa dies, you get a farm. It's an absolute shithole. You restore it, you find a wife, you raise a family. Basically the same thing, just updated with quality life adjustments, and it's got that one more mentality, like one more day. All right.
Yeah.
I go to bed and I save and I wake up. Oh, one of my cows have given birth. Oh, I have an event with a girl I like. Oh, there's a festival. Oh, I'm gonna go in the mine for a little bit so I can get some gold ore so I can update or so I can upgrade my watering can. It's just so stupidly addicting, and it's the stupidest shit. But god damn, is it addicting? I don't know what it is. It's just
So you're not actually describing Farmville for Facebook, are you?
no. It's
That's what it sounds like.
I know you and Josh compared it to that, and you know what? I can't argue with you on that fact, but it's just I feel like Harvest Moon, at least in my circle of gaming, I like a little bit more oddball games, like so I know Harvest Moon probably isn't in your knowledge book, but it's just Harvest Moon predates Farmville, but it's
True.
just it's the same thing. You have a farm, you're raising crops, you're raising livestock, I don't know. It's under work when you had a shit day and just chill, have a beer, listen to some Spotify, and just do some shit.
That's fair. That's fair. Those are hard
So
to
I
find.
mean, that's been the bulk of what I've been playing. I've got I put myself on after Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm putting myself on a game freeze because my backlog is absolutely stupid after all those Black Friday sales. But
Yeah, Sony's been pumping out a lot of sales lately. In fact, the most recent one that was last weekend, I ended up spending like a good $20 on. I mean, everything was less than $5, so
yeah, no, they had a lot of Telltale stuff
yeah,
on that sale.
I picked up most of those.
Yeah, those have been the titles I've been mostly playing this month. How about you, man?
Touched on Division, and we'll
Yep.
briefly talk about that as one of our topics here in a minute. I mean, it was you, me, and Josh. We were all kind of doing the same thing. You and me more so. Final Fantasy. I mean, I've been playing that thing nonstop since it came out.
You just tore into that thing, man. You just took to it.
That's true. I did absolutely everything you can do in it. The only thing I'm missing to get the platinum is maxing out the fishing level, and I'm level 8 just because I hate fishing in a virtual game. It's so boring. I mean, I
don't think it's that bad.
I mean, it's
honestly,
not, but that's all I have to get. Like, if I had paid attention to that during the natural course of the game, I could rear off, fish for a minute, and be like, all right, cool, go back and do some more game, and just kind of keep coming back to it like you're meant to do. I skipped it entirely.
Yeah.
So now that's all there is, and it's so unappealing. I don't want to get that last level to hit the platinum, but, I will. But otherwise, I did absolutely everything in it. I maxed out all my characters. I got all the ultimate weapons. I did all the extra dungeons. I killed the damn turtle. I killed ultimate weapon.
I am not looking forward to
hours.
that turtle fight, man. What'd you say? It took you like an hour and a half or something, or? Oh, Jesus.
It's so repetitive.
Oh, God.
So they weren't kidding when it says it takes 3 game days to finish, because that's true.
I mean, I'll do it at some point, but it's just like, that does not sound appealing to me at the moment.
No. At first, when you start fighting the turtle, it feels all right. It's kind of cool. It's like, I'm fighting this giant mountain.
Yeah.
But at the same time, once you start getting into it, like I did the
Uh,
trick where you eat a certain food that makes all of your attacks 100% crit. So
yep.
I was getting crit hits on everything. It's like 9999 per hit. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
this is great. I'm whooping its ass. I'm doing some damage. The food wore off. And the
Mm.
rest of it, I'm just like ticking away at him. And it's just meticulous. And I couldn't do it anymore. Finally, I beat it. But,
Uh,
oh, lordy.
you're a better man than I.
Yeah. Other than that, Josh and I had been playing some Diablo 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as soon as Final Fantasy, we didn't really have anything to play at the time, and we were just kind of killing time, so we busted out some Diablo 3 and got a few characters up to 70 and did some.
That was
You
in
never
the
played that, right?
Black Friday sale, wasn't it? It was on sale for like super cheap.
Was it? I mean, we both had that game since it came out.
Oh,
It was just sitting in
really?
our backlog.
Fairly certain it was. I could be wrong, but yeah, I saw you guys playing that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You've never played it?
I played, God, way back on the day. Frickin' had to have been Diablo 1 or Diablo 2. Just like one of the first Diablo games. Like I just, crawling around dungeons, picking up loot.
Yep.
Warping back to town, just, doing shit. Nah, man, I don't know. I mean, I was kind of curious in Diablo 3 when it first released like years ago, and I was just like, I don't know.
Well, you see, I bought it and got ready to play it. I played it on PC there at the midnight release for it, and it was great. They had an auction house at the time, and everything was
Yep, I
really
remember
fun.
that.
Yeah, and then it ran into so many problems. Like all the characters were uneven. There was no balance to it. The auction house was screwing people over. It was just it
Yep.
was junk, and there was no end game. So kind of went away from it. The expansion came out, whatever that thing is called. Do you remember what it was called?
Something of Souls, wasn't it? Or
Reaper of Souls.
yeah, sounds right.
Anyways, yeah, so that came out. I bought it. I tried it. It was fun. It was over pretty quickly, kind of like my prom night. And then I just figured, there's no point in coming back to this game anymore. So we were both kind of bored. We booted it up, and there had been a lot of updates since I had last played. And all of these new updates actually balanced the game. They fixed the loot. They added a lot of new things to it. And I was loving it. I couldn't stop playing it. Granted, with these new games that came out, I have to do these reviews, and I stopped playing. So there's that.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I played some of the Telltale ones that came out that we got for the sale a couple weeks ago. What did I grab? I grabbed The Walking Dead. So good. Grabbed that one that you were talking about the fairy tales.
Oh, The Wolf Among Us.
Yeah, The Wolf Among Us. I haven't started it yet. So don't spoil anything.
I'm eager to hear your opinion on that one because I got that game just like, oh, it's a Telltale game. It'll be a piss easy platinum, but like I was genuinely surprised by like the story. Like I was just completely sidelined. So cool.
Yeah, kind of like how your chill game would be Stardew Valley. My chill game is a Telltale where I can just lay on the couch and press a button to progress a movie. It's like watching a movie.
Yeah, no, that's a fair assessment of most Telltale games.
Yeah, so that was my chill game. But I want to say that currently, as we're recording this, probably not while you're listening to it, For Honor is the beta that's currently running right now, and I've got an initial review up there right now, and I've got another one coming soon to our channel if you want to go ahead and watch something more in depth on that. But For Honor is out right now. Amazing game. Yep. You weren't lucky enough to get into the beta on that, were you, Mike? Because it's a closed beta.
Yeah, you told me about it, and I just kind of, I'll get to it at some point, and it's just I never got around to it.
Oh, you poor thing.
I know. I blame everyone but myself.
Well, then, real quick, actually, we might as well just knock it out right now. For Honor, it's a PvP-based game. I'm not 100% sure if there's any like a campaign to it, like a single mode. I'm not sure because they haven't really given us that or really any information on it.
Well, the thing about betas, it's usually to like stress test the server. You're just doing the multiplayer component.
Yeah. Plus, they kind of get a general feel of how their UI works.
Yep.
Their grid system. Like the best example is another game that I was playing is Nioh. Are you familiar with Nioh?
That is coming out February, I believe.
Yeah, so is For Honor. Both of these games come out next month, which we'll be talking about.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm going to kind of hop away from For Honor for a hot sec to explain Nioh and then jump right back because they're kind of related. Nioh is the Dark Souls Bloodborne clone.
Yep.
set is a samurai,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly the same. I mean, it's more so like Bloodborne than it was Dark Souls, because
Mm-hmm. Much more action, not action, but you gotta like get up in their business to like get business done.
yeah, in a matter of words, that's true.
It.
One of the key differences between those games
Mm-hmm.
is the world versus, and the
Mm.
same can be said about any game. You know, you have two sections of one level. You have your walkthrough where you do your puzzles and you fight your enemies, your mobs,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get to a boss, you fight the boss, that chapter's done, you move on, right?
Yeah.
Well, the difference between Dark Souls and Bloodborne is Bloodborne, walking through the world, super easy. Fighting the
Mm-hmm.
boss, super difficult.
All right.
And it's the opposite in Dark Souls. Walking through the world, super difficult. Killing the bosses, super easy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a letdown. This one, Nioh, takes more off of Bloodborne than it did Dark Souls. So walking through the world, super easy. Killing the
Mm-hmm.
bosses, pain in the ass.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did is, I was part of the first beta that we kind of briefly talked about a couple of episodes ago, and this one came back just this last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and they changed the UI around. So a lot of the menus changed. They gave us a new level, and that's kind of like what we were talking about with stress testing the servers and testing the
Yep.
UI. That's exactly what they did with Nioh. So I can only imagine when the actual
Mm-hmm.
game comes out next month, the UI is going to be even better than the improvements they made from alpha to beta.
Yeah, I played that. What was it, the Last Chance demo or whatever the last one they put up was?
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that
was
was it.
pretty decent. I didn't get very far because those type of games just like frustrate me. I want to like them, but I don't know. There's that
Yeah.
whole learning curve, but God, it just makes me want a new Onimusha game. Just I don't know what it is, man. Just the whole samurai setting.
I feel you. In fact, that's
You
probably
know?
why you should be playing Nioh or
Yeah.
For Honor.
Yep.
Now, you
Who
haven't gotten what?
do you know who makes For Honor? Like which
Off the top of my head, no, and I didn't write it down, so let's see how fast my
uh
fingers can type. But um, so you weren't able to get into the For Honor beta, so I kind of want to give you a quick is for you.
all right.
So For Honor right now is a PvP based game, and it's an online
Yep.
only game.
Okay.
It's not a looter, but it
Hmm.
gives you some pretty good loot in a sense that that's kind of what you're going after. Every a round is right now they have a 4-on-4, a 2-on-2, and a 1-on-1. All right,
Ooh.
the majority of what people are playing are the 4-on-4. And
Yeah.
each game mode that they give you right now is domination.
All
And
right.
the classic domination is you have A, B, and C. You have to hold it down, you get it,
Yep.
and then the longer you hold it, the more points you get. Game over, you win, right?
Yep.
All right, well, in this, A and C, which are your respected sides that you start on,
Hmm.
are, pretty much given to you. That team grabs it, whatever. The main fight happens on B. These maps, it's really cool because not only is there, four of you and four opponents, but
Hmm.
there are these AI warriors, knights that are with you, and they're
Yep.
untargetable, and they kind of do their own thing in the world. You can still
Yeah.
fight them, they get in the way, and they kind of help you too, but they're not the main draw for it. They're just part of the environment. And
Yeah.
what they do is they fight on B. So the section of B is kind of cut off to a color, whichever one you're on.
Hmm.
And these guys are like fighting each other. So when it comes down to it, you have to get in there and you have to like eliminate. Let's say you're the orange team and you're fighting the blue team. You
Hmm.
have to remove all the blue knights from the center in order to
Yep.
take it over. Well, the cool part is there's like a power struggle that'll happen when you do that, and it'll go into a last stand mode where once one of your teammates dies, he stays dead. There's no respawn. I mean, you can raise him if you have to, but
Yep.
there's no respawn. Or players are dead. The struggle is over, and the winning team takes over B temporarily until it all starts over again. So
Yeah.
it's actually pretty intense.
Hmm.
It's a lot of fun. You get the ability to customize your character. So you get
Hmm.
a helmet, a body piece, your arm, and your weapon. So like items
Okay.
drop that increase your resistance, your output damage, your stamina. So you kind of always want to customize and build the best looking character.
So
Um,
is there a skill tree or?
there's somewhat of a skill tree. It's not an
Okay.
RPG skill tree,
Hmm.
but it's more of a select these abilities skill tree. You're given four abilities, and each of these four have an additional 2 alternatives.
Okay.
So let's say one of my abilities is a smoke bomb. Is I level him up, I'll be able to unlock 2 more types of this smoke bomb that'll.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so there is a
Nice.
leveling up to it, and it's a lot of fun. I gotta say, I'm looking forward to this one next month.
Okay, so it does drop pretty soon then.
Yep.
February. Okay.
Yep.
Damn. Wow. That snuck up on us.
I know. Usually when the betas
Nice.
come out, it's within a 2-month range. So fortunately, we get to play it
Okay.
sooner than anticipated. And then the last thing I played, which I know you really want to talk about with me, is the most recent thing I finished that I got the platinum on was Telltale's Tales of the Borderlands.
I have hounded you so damn long to play this game.
I know, it's true, you have. And then finally the store had it on sale for $1.50.
All right, so how'd you like it?
I thought it was great, and that's the thing too, because like all these Telltale games are movies, they're stories, and where did it take place? It took place after the second, after the
Place after the second one because I don't know. It's an old game. I don't know if I want to spoil it or not, but no, it took place after the second game.
No, I mean you can spoil it without like actually spoiling it. Like you can say, like for example, Handsome Jack is in it.
Yes, he is.
But he's in it in not the way you would expect because he's already. I mean, he dies in which one? 2.
2. Yes.
Yeah, he dies in 2. So this one has to happen after 2.
Yes.
Right.
And then the pre-sequel is like, the best way to describe it would be like his origin story. And then Tales of the Borderlands happens after 2. And I feel like it's a continuation of Jack's story because I feel like he overshadows Reese and Fiona.
It also depends on how you decide to carry his character throughout the episodes. Because I've noticed a few times when it comes to the choices, you can like hide the fact that Handsome Jack is around, or you can,
it's because you're stuck on Pandora and everybody hates the guy. So if you go around going, hey, I got a remnant of Jack in my,
brain.
Yeah, in my cybernetic enhancements, it's like, of course they'd kill you on the spot. I'd hide it too. But it's like, no, I don't know. I just feel like Tales of the Borderlands further reinstated or further encouraged my little headcanon theory that Jack really wasn't all that bad of a guy. What he wanted, let's back up. You are in the Borderlands series, both the first, second, and the pre-sequel. In all intents and purposes, you're the bad guy. You're a bandit. You're looting. You're shooting. You're killing. You're after a vault for purely financial gain. Jack is wanted to bring order and law and civilization to Pandora. When you look at that from the outside perspective, you can see who's good and who's bad.
Yep.
Borderlands takes place from the bandit's perspective, so of course Jack would be the bad guy.
Right.
And I just feel like it's a continuation of Jack's story. Like towards the end, you learn a lot about his character, and it's just, I don't think he had good intentions. He just went about it the wrong way. And he has a really good quote towards the end. And I like it when stories take like tried and true quotes and then they add a twist on it. And his quote was, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions, and the ones you love litter the roadside." Mm-hmm. And that pertains to his daughter, Angel, which was a siren. And yeah, she killed her mother, and he kept her hidden, but it was for her own protection. But then again, the flip side of that is he also profited off of her because she was able to, God, I can't remember. She was able to like process, do something.
Yeah, I think it was a converting thing she was able to do.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I feel like Borderlands is trying to paint a picture of Jack and it's not conveying it well enough. Like he had good intentions. He just did bad. The ends justify the means for him. But no, I was very surprised with Telltale. It was like Telltale, like you said, games that are movies, and then Borderlands, which is a looter shooter. And it's like when it was first announced, everyone's like, that's a terrible combo. That's never going to work. And the first couple episodes came out. The writing was good. The story was good. Yeah. It was just came out of nowhere.
In fact, it was really kind of hard for me to get into it right out of the get-go. Because the way it starts, episode 1, it starts like you're telling this whole story of why you're in the spot that you're in. So it's really kind of hard to get into it. When you start making your way closer and closer to finishing chapter 1, how chapter 1 ends, and I'm not going to spoil it, definitely helps sink its claws into you and makes you want to play episode 2.
It's got that hook, like...
Yeah, and it came out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. And the best part is what I think also happens to make a very good game
Hmm.
is the same thing that makes a movie great, and that's the soundtrack, the
Oh,
score. And
very good soundtrack.
right, the soundtrack on this blew me away. Like, I did not see any of this coming. Now, the cool thing about these Telltale games, if you're not familiar with, is when you start up a chapter, it doesn't matter which one. Usually these have like 5 or 6 chapters to them, to a whole
Hmm.
thing, right? When
Yeah.
you start one of these up, it starts with where the story left off, or if you're in the first chapter, like how it's going to unfold, right?
Hmm.
Gives you a little bit of it, and then the credit, just it would on a
Hmm.
TV show. It gives you a small little teaser of what the episode's about. Here's the opening sequence, la la la.
Yep.
I'm listening to the Friends soundtrack, and then it gets into the episode.
Yep.
The thing it does with this, like the best
Hmm.
thing I can think of, is episode 2. It
Hmm.
starts out after it does its little intro, the music part of
Oh,
it transitions. You're on this desert. You open
yep.
this
I
open
I
desert
know what
area.
you're talking about. Yep.
Yep, you're on this like dilapidated vehicle and you're like powerhousing across this wasteland. And the song that plays is
Each opening and closing credits, like the whoever like picked the music for each episode was like the opening and closing was just spot on. It was perfect.
the song right now because I had it in the back of my head and it's driving me nuts. I was just
Oh,
listening to it the other day.
what was it?
It's
I think it's
episode 2.
episode 4. Like when they're launching the rocket ship, the song that plays during that. It's just like it's perfect. Like they do the slow mo astronaut walk, and
Yep.
it's just so cheesy and just it, no, whoever picked the music, the licensed music for that series was just they deserve a raise.
The song I was looking for is Kiss the Sky by Sean Lee's Pin Pong
Yes.
Orchestra.
Yeah, and since we're on the topic of music, I thought I love it when the ending, like complete, utter, and very, very end, which is hard for video games, but like when the ending, like the credits theme is like perfectly encapsulates like the entire series. Like My Silver Lining, My First Aid Kit. I thought that was such a perfect end credits for episode 5.
Right?
What I loved, and have you finished Walking Dead?
No, I'm on episode 3, 4.
Okay. Well, Telltale has learned from that. Like in Tales of the Borderlands, like you know how you get your results screen.
Yeah, at the end of every episode, it'll show a
Yeah.
result of the choices you made and the
Hmm.
percentage of what everybody else on the
Hmm.
leaderboard has chosen. So it'll be like
Yeah.
75% of everybody who chose A kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, the great thing, they finally learned that, like, in Tales of the Borderlands, that's rolled into the ending credits. So there's, like, no pause in the action. Like, it's the ending sequence and then the credits start and then the music plays. Not to spoil anything for you, but the first season of The Walking Dead has a very impactful last scene. You know, you're running high on emotions, the ending happens, and then it cuts to black. And then they show you your result, fine and dandy, and then a really great song by Alayla Diane plays. I can't remember it, but it's another great ending credit song. But it's like it's that the fact that they pause to show you your results is what kills the emotion. And they with Tales from the Borderlands, the fact that they just rolled that into the ending credits, like it's all one seamless action, is just like perfect. It's probably my favorite Telltale series out of any of them.
Yeah, no, they'd hit the nail on the head with that, which actually just makes me super excited for Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale that comes out later this year.
Yep. I'm wondering if they're going to get like any of the original actors like Chris Pratt or anything.
Oh god, I hope they do.
Or who knows if they're even in there for all we know. Have they said anything about the plot? It could be like a side story or something for all we know.
They haven't released anything. We don't even have a soundtrack. Fuck, we only have 2 songs for the actual soundtrack for the movie Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they haven't released anything, which is fun.
No, man, I'm good. I'm glad you enjoyed it, man, because I know I was hounding you for a while to go play it, but I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic. Big fan. I highly recommend Tales of the Borderlands, Telltale. The next one I'm really excited to get into, other than the ones I already purchased, is when Batman drops in price, so I can see how that unfolds.
That's gotten some good reviews from what I've read, but I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I'm not the biggest Batman fan personally, but you know, I do enjoy
shut your
Telltale
mouth.
games. So you know, as soon as it hits like $10-15 for the entire season, absolutely, I'd pick it up.
All right, so yeah, apparently we've had a pretty busy month and a half or so with some of these games.
Damn you, sales.
Damn you, Sony. All right, so now that we've gotten the first month of this year out of the way, let's talk a little bit about what happened. A lot of games that came out last year, and a
Yes, we
lot of
did.
them stuck with us, and I've already forgotten half of the ones that I played hardcore even. I think that's because I mostly played Destiny last year, but
Yeah, that's fair.
like I had stated earlier, there's been a lot of channels and there's a lot of reviews out. I know we're hitting this at the end of the month, so most people have already gotten theirs out in circulation, but we kind of came up with our own game of the year sort of section for everything that came out last year. So it's actually kind of disappointing that Josh isn't here with us to be able to talk about
Yeah.
this, but the two of us will go ahead and just knock this out. So I've got a list here of 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 categories that we kind of just briefly went over. So I'm going to pick one of them at random using my finger. I find this one. Game you wish you could have played. So, last year, this is only 2016 games.
Mm-hmm.
Game do you wish you had played last year? That's worded terribly.
I actually had two on this list, and it's just mostly due to time constraints on my end, and that's just kind of how I interpreted the title. But Salt and Sanctuary, I played for like maybe all of 5 minutes, and I just wish I could have gave it the time of day that it deserves because it's got a great art style. It's basically 2D Dark Souls, and it's just like I bought it, I played it for 20 minutes, and I just never came back to it. So I wish I could go. I want to get back to it at some point. And then the other one that I briefly touched on, that I actually streamed it for the channel, was Dishonored 2, another game I played for an hour or two. It's just,
And then never
I don't
went
know.
back to it?
No, it's just, I don't know, man. Life just gets in the way, man. I love the story. I love the art style. It's like a steampunk assassin game where you get to be all stealthy and steal anything that's not nailed down. I don't know, man. I played it for a hot minute and I just never went back to it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. You did stream that when it came out, and that was in October?
Ooh,
That's a long time.
towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
How about you?
Honestly, I only had one game that I really regret that I did not get to play, and that was The Witness.
Ooh, that was on my list too.
Yeah, so those who are not familiar with The Witness, that is the concept of that game strikes me very near and dear because growing up, I was a big fan of the game Myst. Have you ever played that one? Heard of that, Myst?
Dude,
Yeah, it's
Myst, Riven, Myst 3,
Exile.
Exile, yep. I can't remember the fourth one. Then you had that weird multiplayer online abortion, Ages of Uru or something.
Yup.
Dude, I love Myst, dude.
Dude, I still have all the games. I've got all the discs for the original 95. I've got all the books, the Book of Atreus, the Book of Rue, the Book of Ram. I've got all of those. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Myst. So that's why I'm really disappointed I missed
because it takes
Witness.
place on an island and there's oh my god.
Yeah, and if you look at it, I mean, even the game cover itself, if you look past the little block that's on the cover, it's a picture of the island. And the picture of the island is a modern replica of Myst. You can see the areas of the island that are the different puzzles. Like you've got your water ship level, you got your industrial gear level, you got your forest level. I mean, they're all there. It's modern Myst.
They really are, aren't they?
Yeah. The only thing that kept me from doing it was $40, and I just I wanted to go down. That's it.
Dude,
call me a cheap bastard.
No, I was just gonna say the exact same thing. You know what? Like I kind of mentioned earlier, I love oddball indie titles, but it's like, dude, $40 for
a puzzle game, a first-person
puzzle
short.
Game. Don't get me wrong, it looks gorgeous, and I love like the weird like aspect, like why are you here? But it's like, dude, $40, come on. It's like,
no, like 20, yeah, I'll toss $20 for it.
Yeah.
30, you've got me even kind of hesitant on the 40 route, but yeah, I figured it was too much. So.
It was on sale for like 26, 27 during not the Black Friday sale, but they had like a sale in like late December, early January.
I saw
even then I was like,
yeah. Well, that's the thing. They can't throw that kind of stuff at me during the holidays. We're already spending money on loved ones and for physical items and shit, you know, like that's not even fair, Sony.
Yeah, no, right. I hear you. No, once it drops to, like you said, like 15, 20, I'd pick it up in a heartbeat.
Yep. So I've also stayed away from all videos and spoilers because I want to enjoy that for when it's... Actually, you know what? Give me The Witness in VR. That would be one hell of a game.
I did not even think of that.
Right. In fact, you'll hear me go all about VR when we get to Resident Evil coming up after our 2016 review. So let's... move on. I'm going to pick another one at random. Hopefully it's not the same one. It's what is in your opinion, the most underrated game of 2016?
My choice for that was Oxenfree.
What is that? I think I've heard of it, but it doesn't ring a bell.
Like a teen B horror movie. These group of friends, they go out to this abandoned island and there's ghosts and, shit goes wrong and yada, yada, yada. And you're like, all right, this is going to be dumb or whatever. And I gave it a shot, and there is it deals with time loops and ghosts and other dimensions, and it just comes out of left field. And the story, the main character is Alex. She has some hardships in her life, and it ties into the island, and it just it affected me a way I did not expect. It's a decent story. It's gameplay is minimal. You go here, open this, do this, go over here, do that. But it's just the story is what stuck with me, and it deals with themes that I love from science fiction, which is mostly Nietzsche's. I think it's Nietzsche's, like the eternal recurrence. Battlestar Galactica. All this has happened, and all this will happen again. The eternal loop.
Yeah.
So it has an interesting twist on that, and it just came out of left field for me. And I was just like, damn, you go in expecting this dumb, stupid horror teen B movie, and it's just like it's got a decent plot, you got characters you care about, and that came out of left field for me. How about you?
Oh, I had Enter the Gungeon.
Ooh, yep, I played that one.
Yeah, it's actually a game I haven't purchased yet, but I'm still waiting. It's in my cart. Don't get me wrong. And I have
waiting for the drop.
I'm just waiting for it. As soon as my card is full, I'll go ahead and I'll get it.
There you go.
I played my cousin. Actually, all of my cousins have it right now. So when I was up there for I was in Minnesota, where you are residing currently, where you're recording this.
I know. I live in frickin' Bumpkinville.
Oh yeah, don't you know?
Ooh, hot dish.
Right. So I was up there. Oh my god. So I was up there for the holidays, and my cousins were showing me this game, and I threw a quick 15-minute up on our channel when I started testing it out. It's a top version. It's like it plays exactly like Zelda: A Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
It's a top view game, kind of like your Stardew Valley top view.
Yep.
And you go through dungeons and you fight a boss at the end of it. Each room is exactly the same as you're playing Zelda. They're blocked rooms. It's a square grid. You pick up an item in that to unlock a door. It's the same thing. I thought it was something completely different. When I started playing it, I was just blown away as to it was like the nostalgia came back from my Legend of Zelda days in a new kind of form. So that was really cool. I definitely give that as an underrated game.
No, yeah, I like it. It's a roguelite, so every single run is different. You get different guns, you get different can you get with this roll of the dice. And I bought it when it first came out, and yeah, it's one of those games like, I'll do one more run, why not,
Yeah. Like you don't expect to make it all the way to the end, and if you do, that's great. But it's meant to have multiple playthroughs, because each playthrough is something different. All the items are random, like completely random, like the worst RNG you've ever had. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's not like you can try and get a certain item. It's not like you can farm a certain item. It's just you get what you're given. It's like you're being dealt a hand of cards. That's all it is. And you just make do with what you have, and it's actually a lot of fun. And they even the cool part is like my cousin will still hit me up and be like, "Oh, I was playing Enter the Gungeon the other day, and guess what I got? I got the foam finger from Dead Space."
Oh.
Yeah. Or even
that's in there.
Yeah, that's in there.
I remember in Dead Space 3, because I beat it and I got the plat, so I got like all the unlockables. I remember we were playing the DLC, and you were pissed because I had the foam finger. And you were just like for those who don't know, like when you reload, like he does the devil horns, and you hear like a metal guitar.
The guitar solo.
Yeah. And Tony's like, God damn it, I know whenever you're reloading, because I just hear the guitar riff, and I'm like, I'm sorry. It's like,
I feel like I'm hanging around with Bill and Ted over here. Jesus. Yeah. Like, these fucking stoners behind me just found something cool. Yeah. Look, there's a dead alien over here.
Excellent!
I just love the foam finger because Isaac just goes bang, bang, pew, 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 and it's just like it one-shots enemies. It's just
yeah, by far the best thing that series has ever created. But yeah, Enter the Gungeon has all that. It's got the classic guns from all of these well-known
Yeah.
games, like even Mega Man. It's
It's got a good sense of humor too. Like it's very self-aware.
Oh, absolutely. It breaks the fourth wall too, even.
Yeah.
So I say that is by far the most underrated game of the year.
Yeah.
All right. So with that being said, what is the biggest disappointment of games out of 2016?
This one hurts me because this was a game I was just absolutely looking forward to. And that was Deus Ex, Mankind Divided.
Oh yeah, I played the first one.
It's a first-person stealth game. It's like Dishonored, but it's more sci-fi, punky, And I love the first one, platted the first one, and it's just like, man, they're coming out with a sequel. I pre-ordered it, just the standard version, because I've learned not to get collector's editions anymore.
Yeah, we've been burned on that.
And played it for 10, 12 hours. If I could guess, maybe halfway through the game, and just nothing clicked. I had no motivation to move forward. It's just, I don't know. It just did not grab me the way I hoped it did. And it just kills me because I love that series. I love stealth games, sneaking through a building and no one knows you were there. You knock someone out, you stick them in a locker, you crack a safe, you get a couple of gun upgrades. And then you get out. No one ever knows you were there. And it's just like, it's not doing it for me. I don't know what's up.
Bummer.
It just didn't grab me. I know.
Yeah, I hate when that happens. Well, maybe if they come out with a new one, it'll actually be a redeeming game.
Hopefully, man. Not holding my breath, though.
Yeah.
What made you all sad and angry?
What got my panties in a twist last year?
Yeah.
Seeing this until this DLC came out. And not only that, it was what helped start us on our podcast. It was in our first episode. It was what we were so gung-ho about, and by we I mean Josh and I, because you don't play this game. What I'm talking about is Destiny Rise of Iron DLC.
Yeah, man, you guys are geared up for that bad boy.
Yep, and it sounded so promising. Every single thing that Bungie did for Destiny from day one was a complete hit. The DLC that was before Rise of Iron was the Taken King, and that was by far my favorite expansion on Destiny. It was the best thing that ever happened to that game. So my expectations were a little high when Rise of Iron came out. The thing that really screwed everything over was they gave everybody everything immediately. What was the drive of Destiny was the looter concept of one more game to try and get that last piece of weapon I needed or whatever it may be. Doing these little quests to unlock this exotic gun that I've been going for that's going to help me in PvP and trials and etc. And what they did is, like, in year one of Destiny, the one gun everybody needed and wanted to get was the Gjallarhorn. It was this rocket launcher that would home in on whoever you shot it, and it would blow up into a bunch of seeker missiles that would do even more damage. And it was an OP gun. It was so cheap. They removed it when year 2 came out. And then when...
Didn't Xur have it after a while?
Well, Xur sold it the week or two before they released year 2. So that way every single person of year 1 who still played, who hadn't had it, would have a chance to use it before they got rid of it.
Yeah, I remember just everyone was up in arms over that.
Yep. So it was like it was a staple of what the game was. You know, it's a looter at its core.
Yeah.
And there was a prestige to it. Like, if you get into a party to go to a raid, a party of 6 people, you get in there and you explain how you're going to do it. And by the time you get through every explanation, they're like, all right, so get your Gjallarhorn out and you're going to shoot him at the end. One kid's like, oh, I don't have a Gjallarhorn.
Yeah.
Everybody collectively just stops and stares at him. They're like, really? You don't have a Gjallarhorn? And then they kick you out of the party. Like, you almost had to have it even. So the thing that made Rise of Iron so terrible is they gave you the Gjallarhorn. They just gave it to you. Every single person in the game had the best weapon in the game. So not only that, but the raid was garbage. It was super easy, super quick. I mean, there was no strategy to it. I remember when all of these raids come out, we'd be 4 o'clock when it was released. And we'd run into it, try and figure out the puzzle. I mean, we'd all expect to die hundreds of times just trying to figure this thing out. And every clan that played this game was in competition with each other to try and be the first one to finish. Not the correct way, but just to finish it. And for the previous expansion, it took a good couple of weeks before they actually killed Oryx. and that was because you had to be the highest light level there was in order to actually fight him. And then
Yeah.
when this one came out, they beat the raid in 2.5 hours.
Jeez.
Yeah, like if that doesn't say what garbage this expansion is, then I don't know what. So that was the biggest disappointment.
Dang.
Yeah. All right, so we've talked a little bit about some bad things out of 2016. Let's talk about some good things that happened out of 2016, shall we?
All right.
All right, so the first question is, All right, what game had the best graphics? Let's talk about graphics.
You and I are going to disagree on this one.
Yeah, absolutely, we are.
Don't get me wrong. I can appreciate like modern graphics, but I'm also a sucker for pixel art. So don't get me wrong, like Uncharted, Last of Us, Final Fantasy, like don't get me wrong, top-notch graphics. But like my pick goes to Hyperlight Drifter, which is kind of a top-down pixel art Zelda hack and slash game.
Okay.
So it's just a bleak, dreary world, and even though it's pixel art, like the world is very well animated. You'll see bugs crawling along the wall. You'll see like stuff swimming in a swamp. It's just I just feel like it's a very good aesthetic art style. And for me, like if the art style of a game also kind of factors into like how well I like it. I don't know if you've played it, but like Bastion or Transistor are kind of top down like 2D pixel art
Yeah, I'm familiar with Transistor.
hack and slash games. I don't know, man. I'm a sucker for pixel art. And overall, I think Hyperlight Drifter is a very good game that it doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. But I don't know, man. Just crawling through that like wet, dreary world is just, I don't know, man. It just stuck with me.
I can appreciate that though. In fact, when it comes to graphics, like aside from what I chose was the best of the year, I'm actually a sucker for cell shading, to be honest.
Ooh.
Big fan
I
of
love
cell shading. Yep.
Dude, Borderlands, Dark Cloud, Ni no Kuni.
Yeah, yep. Mostly Borderlands, biggest draw.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. As a matter of fact, I'm a big fan of how, if you're familiar or not, Uncharted 4, when you beat the game, it unlocks filters. And you're able to change the filter accordingly. And one of the filters is a cell shading filter. Say that 3 times fast. A cell shading.
It's actually a pretty decent filter.
Yeah, I was impressed. Not bad.
I played around with it, man. I thought it was pretty decent.
So when it comes to best graphics, your previously stated I went with a specific game, and then something happened to that game that wasn't noticeable at first until I really got to look at it, so I had to change my answer, and my previous answer was Final Fantasy 15.
All right.
I thought
going off script. What do we got?
I know it was Final Fantasy 15 to start with. I thought they did an amazing job with the graphics. It was so real, and their transitions were impressive. And then what happened is they released a patch, and it was to increase the stability of the game itself. There were some bugs to it at first, which happens when games come out right away, but they also added something else to it, I forget, but in the process of this patch, it was a little compressed. You had mentioned that to me when it first came out, and I didn't notice it at first. I didn't notice it until my New Game Plus playthrough, that it was a lot different than before, and you noticed it in the game world, not so much in the cutscenes. Yeah. Because the cutscenes are kind of stationary. They are what they are. They're not rendering. They're done. It's in the sandbox world that I noticed a lot of the higher end details that used to be in the scenery, mostly in like the forest areas and the trees and the water specifically. They did a great job at rendering water in this game. And I know it's almost like we say that every year when a new game comes out, like, holy shit, you see the graphics on there, you see the water, man, you see the face. They really did do a great job with the refraction of water, the light, the waves, and everything. And then I noticed it again after the patch in my next playthrough, and it was choppy. It was almost as if they had to slow it down in order to fix some of these bugs, so they scaled it down quite a bit, and that's rather disappointing. So, with that being said, I changed my answer to best graphics of the year, went to Uncharted 4.
Yeah, no, I can see that. There's some pretty impressive scenery and graphics in that game.
Yeah, and Uncharted is known for their cinematic kind of playthroughs and how they transition from gameplay to their cutscenes. and it's
Yep.
you almost don't even realize it's happening. Like there's been plenty of times I'll be watching a cinematic on the screen, and next thing you know, I'm just staring at Drake, like look at his watch for 20 minutes, realize, oh, I'm actually playing the game right now. And that happens more often
Yeah.
than not. And what they did with 4 versus 3, 2, and 1 is they focused more on. This will transition into our next category because you and I had initially the same pick for this, so
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna mesh this up. But you and I
Mm-hmm.
had a conversation about this for the longest time about who the best character out of 2016 was, and we both kind of landed with Nathan Drake, right?
Yep. No, that's true.
Right. So we both had Nathan Drake, but for different reasons, and we've argued on this in the past since Uncharted 4 has come out about the whole feel of Uncharted 4 compared to 3, 2, and 1, and how Drake has evolved as a character over these 4 episodes. And what I think we should just kind of like get this out of the way as it is. I believe that his character has like they've really focused on how old this character got, not from a visual standpoint, but from a physical
Yeah.
standpoint. If you've watched or played any of the Uncharted's in the past, you know that the one thing Nathan Drake is most impressive about his most impressive feature is his upper body strength, right? I mean, all he does is scale walls and fall
Yep.
from things and grab a hold of things, and he's always hanging. This guy's always swinging. He has got upper body strength for days. And what they did in Uncharted 4 is, yeah, he still does a lot of the climbing and stuff, but he's unfortunately slower when you do it, which is very noticeable. He's not limber like an Assassin's Creed. He's Ezio jumping from clock tower to a rope across the way. What he is he's very slow. He's very he's sluggish when he starts to run. Even like if you're just out in the field and you're just standing there for a second and you go to run around the corner, his getting momentum is even slower. And they focused more on stealth in this game than they ever have in any of the other ones. Like whenever an enemy was introduced in Uncharted 4, it was always a stealth thing. Do it stealthily. You can kill them all if you want. You're gonna have a hard ass time because we want you to do it stealth.
Yeah.
And that's because his character has gotten so old that he can't do it anymore. He's physically. He can't handle it anymore. I mean, he's gone through 4 of these episodes where he's just jumping and climbing around Tomb Raider style, and he can't do it anymore.
I don't know. I mean, you chose him because you thought he was a genuinely good character. I chose him because I didn't think anyone else was really memorable last year. I mean,
that's true.
As much as I love Final Fantasy, I mean, those characters are, I hate to say it, but they're paper thin for a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, true. It was...
I don't know, man. Freaking he's Nathan Drake. He's got smart-ass quips, and he can scale a mountain, but it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't really have anybody else either. But
I mean, I feel like Naughty Dog, not to give any spoilers, but, you know, it was even in the marketing. It's obviously his last game, and they're passing the torch on to someone else. Who that person is up for debate, but I feel like they've made a decent choice of, like, let's move on to somebody else within the universe. And for the longest time, people thought it was going to be Sam. And what's the DLC coming up? Forgotten Legacy?
Yeah,
it's Chloe and Nadine, which I'm okay with. I love Chloe.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You and I picked the same character, but for different reasons.
Yep. I picked him for his actual character arc. I think they ended the character very well. In fact, I think they did it so well that it ended his story in the best way that it possibly could. Honestly, I kind of wanted him to die at the end of it, and then that way...
I think we all were expecting him to die in the end, honestly.
Yeah, it seems like it would happen, but it would also validate never bringing him back unless it would be a prequel. So they can't continue his story so much anymore. And it would ensure that.
No, it's just all I wanted out of his character arc was, like, recognition. He is a smart-ass, cynical guy who has an answer for everything, and he's killing literally thousands of people every game. I would just like to see, like, a toll of that on his character. But it's just like, you don't. He's just like, man, I killed how many people trying to get to Shangri-La? All right.
Yeah.
I'm going back to my house with Elena and playing Crash Bandicoot. But they do kind of, what is it, 3 or 4? I can't remember. But, like, he's climbing, like, they kind of do touch on, like, his age. He's climbing something. He's just like, I'm so sick of climbing shit. It's just like...
Pretty much breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah, it's just like impossible length, but yeah. Don't get me wrong, I think he's a great character, but I don't know.
Well, yeah, I also picked him and Uncharted 4 as best story for 2016.
That's the next category.
Yeah, and mostly for all of those reasons that I had been stating.
No, you know what? As much as I shit on Uncharted 4, I did think it had a nice story. I don't like how Sam came out of like left field. Like, oh, I had this brother and he's really important to me. Like,
Yep.
I could understand like if we had hints in the other games, like,
He existed.
oh, I got family, but I don't want to talk about it.
Yep.
It's just kind of like, oh, here's my brother, and I'm gonna go to the ends for the earth of him. All right, whatever. I can look past that. I just would have loved some, mentions in past games. I thought it was a decent story. Sam kind of grows up. He realizes like he can't do this forever. Like this is his last gig. Like he's reaching the end of his rope because Elena is just busting his balls.
Yeah, which actually happens quite a bit in 4 too.
Yeah.
For his own stupid reasons.
Yeah.
But still, it made a good first story. Like you expect to see that in a movie or a TV show, and sure enough, they include that kind of stuff.
Yep.
So what was your best story?
My for best story was one that I was actually kind of wishing Josh would be here for this because we could fucking butt heads about it because he called it really dumb. But Firewatch.
Firewatch. Oh, I heard that thing got a lot of good reviews.
I
think it even made best story.
It won a few best stories, but it's just for those who don't know, it's about this guy. Like they pulled a switcheroo. Like they did press events and they tubers, but they cut out the first 20 minutes.
Oh, cool.
So it's like it's this guy. He's out in the woods and there's a conspiracy going on, and like fucking you get really paranoid and you think it's a drama. Well, it is a drama, but you think it's a different type of drama. And then the game comes out and people fire it up, and it's like there's this beginning that you don't understand, and the reason that he takes this job in the middle of nowhere as a Firewatch is that his wife is sick. He can't deal with it. Her family takes her back to Australia to take care of her, and he runs away to the wilderness. And then the game transpires. There's this paranoid guy that you find out in the middle of the woods. X, Y, and Z goes. And video games like, oh, I'm the hero. I can do whatever I want. I'm going to leave my sick wife and bang this hot girl on the radio. And you can try that option, but at the very end, well, spoiler, it's an old game. I don't get in. But you get to the end of the game, and the main character's name is Henry, and the woman on the radio, her name is Delilah. And like, you know what? We've been through all this. What are you going to do? Or what should I do? And it's like the option is like, come move with me to Colorado and let's run away together, let's go to Vegas. And no matter which option you choose, Delilah goes, you should go be with your wife. And it's the overlying theme of you can't escape your responsibilities, you have to deal with what's in front of you. And it's pretty real. It's pretty real, and it's just you think it's a video game. I can escape my responsibilities, I can go do what I want. It's like, no, go be with your wife, she's sick, you should be there, you ran away into the middle of the woods, you shouldn't be here. It's just, but the banter is great, the graphics are beautiful, the story is phenomenal. Josh said he played it for like 10 minutes or something and he got bored or whatever. It's just, give it a chance. I mean, it'll tug at your heartstrings as it did mine, so that's why I picked it for my story of the year.
That's totally fair. In fact, I kind of want to try it myself. I've heard that it got some great reviews, and that it even won a few awards.
Yeah, man. If you get a chance, it starts off. It's a slow burn, but
giggity.
Yeah.
I'm always down for a good slow burn.
Yep.
Well,
who isn't?
Yeah, right. Speaking of slow burn, did you have any games that were like a surprise hit for you? Ones that you just didn't expect?
Yeah, that actually came. We've mentioned it before, man, but god damn, that Black Friday sale that Sony had, I picked up like 5 or 6 games off that bad boy. And one that I did not, I picked it up because I read it was an easy plat, but I played it and like I was genuinely surprised. And it was Mad Max.
Oh yeah.
And you don't think movie tie-in games are going to be good, but it's got really fun car combat. It has like an Arkham style hand-to-hand combat system. It's a beautiful world. It's bleary and bleak, but it is beautiful. And you go around like fighting other people's in cars and just beating people up, and it's just, I was just out of nowhere for me, man. It's fun. It's the story is nonsense, of course, but I feel like the gameplay makes up for it.
In fact, I was a big fan of the movie.
I watched it just on a whim. I was like, I'd watch it again.
Oh yeah, in fact, actually, the Ramble On guys, they had a Rumble a while back where his best summer movie, and I think I don't know. I was fact checking for it, and I don't quite remember. I'd have to go back and listen to it. But yeah, you should check those guys out too. Ramble on about movies. They do a movie podcast. I think yeah, it was in there. Fair enough. Plug.
What snuck up on you?
There wasn't really a whole lot that
Mm-hmm.
kind of caught me off guard other than Enter the Gungeon, which we talked about as the
Yep.
most underrated one. And from every point that I had mentioned earlier was the reason why it kind of snuck up on me. It really didn't even, I didn't know it existed. And then when my family showed me and the nostalgia factor to it, because it was more like Zelda than anything else, it
Yep.
blew me away. So yeah, not only was it the most underrated game for me, but it was also the most surprising hit of a game. So
Nice. It is a good.
yeah. What overall though, like out of everything that we've done, everything that we've played, everything that we've
Mhm.
seen, I know what was it? Uncharted 4 was the one that actually walked away with Game of the Year. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For like just the press.
The
Or...
overall, like there's always an overall Game of the Year, and it was
Oh,
Uncharted 4,
nah,
right?
nah,
What was it?
not for me at least.
No, I mean like the critically acclaimed one, like at
Oh,
back
oh yeah, dude, that got shit. That got best story, best graphics, best art direction,
yeah,
best music.
best everything.
It cleans when a new Uncharted comes out. It usually cleans up almost every category it's in. It's just,
True story.
which I mean, hey, I mean, same thing happened with The Last of Us. I mean, Naughty Dog produces
They
decent games.
they know how to make a game for sure.
Yeah.
So without with Uncharted pretty much actually winning everything, what would you mean would actually be the Game of the Year?
I mean, you got so many different criterias that you could judge for Game of the Year on. I mean, you could do for time, you could do for story, you could do for graphics.
Well, as a gamer overall, what
yeah,
like you take everything and you throw it, you take all these important categories that you do take into consideration, but you lump everything together. One game stands out amongst everything else.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Stardew Valley.
Yeah, and
that's just because it just brings me back to my childhood. I've had a pretty shitty year, and going back to playing a Harvest Moon game where I can go home, I can come home from work, I can change out of my clothes, I can play a game where I don't have to worry about time limits or enemies killing me or fucking doing shit. And Harvest Moon is like such a staple of my childhood. So to have another game like that in my rotation, like I just feel like Final Fantasy was great. I wouldn't go out of my way for it, I don't know. It's got to go to Stardew Valley, man. It just struck me on such a personal level, and I've sunk so much time into it, and I enjoy the music, the gameplay, everything. That's got to be my Game of the Year for 2016.
You really love that game.
Dude, I know you guys rag on it, but we all have, that just go-to game where, you get home from work and you're like, I just want to play something and unwind,
Right.
So what's your King of Kings? What tops your list?
The top of my list was actually Final Fantasy 15.
You were probably more excited for that game than I was.
I think I was more excited about that game than most people were. I mean, that game really was 10 years in the making, and when they delivered, it didn't suck.
Yeah.
Which is what I fully expected. But 10 years in the making, they gave us a completely, ground up new framework, everything brand spanking new on Final Fantasy. And it was great. There was nothing I hated about it.
No, I can agree with that.
Well, with that out of the way, do you have anything you're anticipating out of this year? Like what are you looking forward to the most? There's a lot of good things coming out this year.
It's from what they've announced, I mean, Resident Evil, I haven't played it yet.
I'll tell you all about it here shortly.
Oh, I know you will, sir. I know you will. But, Resident Evil 7, been a long time fan of the series. I've been looking forward to that, but I haven't been able to play it yet. Hopefully down the road I will be. Horizon Zero Dawn is probably at the top of my list. I'll be streaming it for the channel, midnight release at the end of February. Other than that, I haven't really been paying too much attention. What is it called? Night in the Woods. I'm doing a midnight stream for that as well. It's an indie platformer with kind of a story-heavy twist that I'm really looking forward to. Beyond that, I mean, it's not coming out anytime soon, but Last of Us Part 2, I'm excited for that as well.
Of course, new Naughty Dog. Why not?
Yep. So those are probably my main picks for the future.
Right on. Not bad. I'm looking forward to all those.
Yeah, mostly Horizon Zero Dawn though, dude. Just because it's a new IP. It's made by the guys who made Killzone, so it's going to be fairly action heavy. It's an open world RPG. There's robot dinosaurs. I mean, come on, why are there robot dinosaurs? Don't you want to find out? I want to find
I'm
out.
gonna find out.
That's probably my like. If I had to pick only one game for 2017, it'd probably be Horizon Zero Dawn.
Well, fortunately enough, you only got to wait a month. Well, less than that,
I
really.
know it is coming up hot.
That's right.
What about you? What's got the sparkle in your eye?
What's got my spider sense tingling?
Ooh,
Yes,
I know that answer.
I think you do. That's I'm
Mhm.
I'm going there. My most anticipated game out of 2017 is the highly anticipated Spider-Man. It's going to be an open world sandbox Spider-Man. And they've made a lot of these games in the past and they've all kind of bombed. The only ones that really stand out are Spider-Man 2 for PS2, which was
Oh, I remember that back in the day.
yeah, I had that one too. I loved it. Actually, the best thing about that game was just swinging around the city. They did such a good
Now,
job.
what gets me excited about the Spider-Man game isn't that the guys who made Infamous Studio, or am I remembering?
Wait, who is Infamous?
Insomniac.
Then yes, that is correct.
Okay, yeah, maybe 80% sure on that. I thought Infamous was a great open world game.
You're right, it was. And in fact, I actually I platinumed a year ago this month. Actually, Second Son.
Did you ever play First Light?
Yep, I didn't platinum it yet because I still got to do
Oh,
some of the trials and stuff, but
nah, pretty decent.
finished it at least.
No, man. I mean, I'm excited for it. I mean, the trailer looked pretty decent. It only what bothered me was though that like the trailer or like the name, it wasn't a name. It was a hashtag. It's like, oh god, is this game close or is it far off? I mean, give me a hint here. It's just like, but no, I'm not even a comic book fan, and I'm excited for that game.
Yeah, no, it looks great. I love sandbox games, and a character I grew up with, a character that I portray. Even I do a lot of cosplay,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
one of my characters is Spider-Man. Granted, it's the classic Spider-Man. I'm working on the MCU one right now, actually, and I would love to have this suit if I can get my hands on it.
Quick side conversation.
Hmm?
I actually watched Civil War because it's finally on Netflix.
Right.
Not bad. I was surprised.
Really, you finally saw Civil War?
Yeah, well, yeah, because I'm lazy and I was on Netflix. But yeah, I mean, it was decent. It was just like out of nowhere. Tony Stark's like, "Hold on, I'll be right back," and then he's in New York and he's talking to Peter Parker. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Mm-hmm.
And then like later at the airport scene, he just comes out of nowhere and just steals Captain America's shield. I was like, "All right, that was a pretty good tie-in. I like it."
Yep. No, and that is the best I've ever seen Spider-Man on screen. Like Tom Holland has it down. He's a actor
Yeah.
with gymnastics under his belt. I mean,
Yep.
he is Peter Parker. I hate to
He's
say
got
it, but
that-
yeah.
He's got that nervous, like nerdy air to him.
Yep, absolutely. Holy shit. Oh, I can't wait for it.
No, but no, that game should be fun. I'm excited for it.
I'm also really happy that you finally saw Civil War.
I know, you're hounding me. Gets you back for Borderlands.
Touche. Oh, speaking of Borderlands and my cosplay, I'm working on a new character right now. Can you guess who it is?
Is he a handsome devil?
He certainly is. A friend of mine, we're going to be dueling a Borderlands cosplay for this coming OhioCon. It's WizardCon in August. So we're gonna try and I'm gonna be doing Handsome Jack, and she is going to be doing Mad Moxie.
Which is hilarious because you've never played the pre-sequel, and that actually is.
Which means I'm definitely going to be brushing up on my history as I prepare for this character. I've already started building it, so it's going to be great.
Handsome Jack and Moxie did date, so
giggity.
Best DLC. I mean, I kind of cheated with that one. It's not it's not a DLC in the traditional sense, but it's like you did download it, and for me, that was the Division 1.4 patch, which we have talked about in the past. And for those who haven't played it, it was basically a complete revamp of the entire game. Like me and Tony and Josh for a little bit, we just spun our wheels for months on end, and then they dropped this patch which revamped, which everything changed, and all of a sudden we're making progress. We're getting higher gear scores. We're getting better gear. We're progressing. We're doing events. I completely changed the game for me at least, and like I thought that was just the best DLC they had released this year.
No, that's very true because that saved that game. If it weren't for that patch, nobody.
Yeah,
I mean, we wouldn't have come back to it. Nobody else would be playing it, and
yeah,
they're still releasing content for it, and they're doing a
yeah,
good job.
yeah. No, so that's my DLC for 2016. Completely turned that game around.
Which can be said about mine too. I chose The Taken King, and I had mentioned it earlier when I said the worst thing that I was most disappointed about was
Yep.
the most recent Destiny patch.
Yep. Oh, the not the wintering. It was basically a Christmas patch.
Yeah, I thought the best DLC was The Taken King for Destiny, as opposed to the most recent one, The Rise of Iron, which was complete garbage, which I kind of argued about earlier as being
Yep.
the biggest disappointment of the year. This one, I was also rating that this was my favorite DLC, and the reason for that was because they added a whole new raid, which was the longest raid and the most complicated one they've ever done. Well, okay. More, not the most complicated, but more intuitively entertaining. Like you actually, it wasn't just a puzzle like the very first one was. It was all puzzle. You had to
Yeah.
figure that thing out. There was no hints. This one was more, you kind of read the environment and you have an idea of what to do. That's what I mean by intuitive.
Yep.
They added a whole new set of weapons. They added a new subclass to your character. So I mean, it was like revamping the game and keeping
Yeah.
that life in it. Whereas my
Mhm.
biggest disappointment absolutely killed it. So
That's fair, man. You got to take the highs with the lows.
yeah. What else?
The one I picked, you didn't have an answer for, so
Oh well, let's just talk about that real quick, and I'll pick something on the fly.
okay. The category was pie in the sky, which I guess is another way you could say a pipe dream, which is basically something that'll probably never ever happen. But hey, it might.
Yeah, kind of like
And
every relationship I'd ever aimed for growing up.
oh,
Oh, my
zing!
life is sad.
You and me both, brother. Um, my answer was and I'm actually surprised about this answer because like as I've gotten older, I've actually grown more and more accustomed to this. I feel like graphically we're hitting diminishing returns. I mean, it's not like from PS1 to PS2 to PS2 to PS3. Like the jumps are getting graphically smaller. Like so we're hitting diminishing. So I would much rather have a much higher frame rate. And certain game like The Last of Us Remastered and Resident Evil 7 are locked 60 FPS. I would love if Sony had the balls or Microsoft or anybody like, you know what? If you want a game on our system, it's got to be a locked 60 FPS.
Yeah, you can't go
Or
less
else
than that.
yeah, because I mean, when you play like a game that has 60 FPS and you go back to a game that has 30 FPS, it's a little jarring, I think. And it's just like I said before, this is an answer that never surprised me because we're superficial creatures and we want pretty and we always want it to get prettier. But it's just like as I've gotten older, like man, I would just love 60 FPS standard, just golden, buttery smooth 60 FPS. Never gonna happen, but hey, I can wish.
No, and in fact, it almost feels like it should happen. Not have to say for my choice would be more content for the VR, and it wasn't until recently that I was able to play with a VR that I can actually say this. But you're absolutely right. I think putting a locked 60 FPS being frames per second, as a standard, an industry standard for these games, is probably going to have to actually happen if they do more with VR. And
yeah, because it needs to be as smooth as possible.
right, because otherwise you're going to get nauseous, you're going to get sick, you're going to get eye strain, you're going to get headaches. All of those things I haven't actually experienced yet in the week or so that I've been in possession of a VR.
Yeah.
Which is very good. I like that. But I can only imagine that if it were any less, I would be throwing up. I would feel nauseous. I would get vertigo.
Yeah.
To my answer for this, with VR content is with Resident Evil 7 being out, it is apparent that was made for VR, and they did such a good job with it that if they continue to do things like that, like I had said earlier, I would love to see The Witness in VR. Just the same as, what did you pick for best story?
Firewatch.
That's a first person, right? Yeah.
I did not even think of that.
Exactly. Not only that, my buddy Rich and I, we've been talking a lot since Resident Evil 7 came out, because it's actually his VR that I'm borrowing right now in order to make some of these videos and reviews. So yeah, it's games like that, like The Witness, the idea of The Witness in VR, and the game that you picked as your favorite story in VR. It's games like that if these companies can keep producing these first-person exploration games, that VR is going to be so much more than what it already is. I mean, like right now, I'm actually a little scared of it, to be perfectly honest with you. The idea
Mm-hmm.
of not the game that you're playing, but the idea of being immersed in a three-dimensional world, you actually feel like you're in there. And I'll talk more about that when I go over Resident Evil 7 here.
Mm-hmm.
It's real. So if they can keep doing these kind of games,
Yeah.
it's going to.
It sounds like you want more actual experiences and not like tech demos. You want full-fledged games specifically for the VR space.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be graphically inclined to be like the greatest thing ever. It can be cell
Yeah.
shading graphics. I mean, it could be
Yeah.
just anything but Minecraft.
Yeah. No, that's understandable. Biggest blunder, which oddly enough, both of ours are for the same company, but just different categories.
Yeah, and it's something that neither of us actually play.
Well, don't get me wrong, dude. And we've talked about it before on the podcast and in private, but my pick for biggest blunder was the Nintendo NES Classic, which for those who don't know, they basically just pumped 30 NES games onto like what is essentially a USB drive, but it looks like a Super Nintendo, or it looks like a Nintendo, and you can play it on your TV.
It's essentially a Raspberry Pi
and that's
the
but it's
yeah.
it's a closed Raspberry Pi. You cannot add any more additional games, which I feel like Nintendo missed out on. And since we've came up with this list, hackers have been able to add games to it. And you brought up my second point, Raspberry Pi. If I want to play Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PlayStation 1, and like Dreamcast games, you can buy a $70 kit on Amazon for a Raspberry Pi. You set it up, you load up some ROMs, it runs perfectly fine.
Yep.
And it's just like Nintendo could have like started the platform like, hey, we got these down the road. There's a card reader built in. You can buy additional games for $1, $2, whatever. But no, it's a closed system. So the 30 games that are on it, that's all there's ever going to be unless you hack the system. And I just feel like that is such an absolute missed opportunity.
True story. Well, going down the line, I'm sure there are going to be tutorials on YouTube on how to fix it yourself. I mean, even when the Wii came out, people figured out how to turn the homebrew on so you can do the same thing with downloaded ROMs and play SNES, NES games.
It's like, we want to play your games. Let us.
Yeah, they just want to charge us for it.
Exactly. How about you?
Mine is the Nintendo Switch, the new console that they just announced. And not only did they just announce, they gave us everything about it. They gave us the complete specs, what they're planning on doing with it, what it can do. If you haven't heard about it yet or haven't looked prized, you haven't heard anything for, what it is it's their new system. All it is it's a 2-piece set. It's it's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen, but it's brilliant. And I know for a fact it's not going to go anywhere because it's Nintendo and they're going to screw it up like they always do. But they're the kings for being innovative with new design and new tech. So what this new system is it's a it's a tablet the size of a screen that you would see on the back of a car seat in your mom's soccer van. And what it is it slides into this little carrying case. That's really all it is. It's just this big fucking tablet, and you can plug it into a TV to, watch it on a bigger screen, or a little kickstand so you can watch it right in front of you. And it comes with a controller, but the controller is a split controller. Like, it comes apart, or it can go together, or you can attach it to the side of the monitor that it comes with. So it's almost like you're playing a PlayStation Vita or like a Game Boy or something. It's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen. But if they can do this right, I have a feeling they can do something pretty big with this. Unfortunately, it's Nintendo, and their audience is children under the age of 14, so all their other games are kid games. It's just the only draw it's probably going to have is Zelda, and I'm not going to go buy a system just to play Zelda.
Yeah, I've said it before. You know what? If Sony, Jesus. If Nintendo wanted to make money hand over fist, go the Sega route. Put your shit on other consoles. People will buy it at whatever price you list.
I mean, we just want to play your shit. We don't care.
Dude, you freaking Donkey Kong Country Trilogy, the Mario PS4 or Xbox One, freaking like $10 a pop or something. People would buy that in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me? Zelda pack, Zelda 1, 2, Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask for $20, $25. Shit.
I mean, those things already exist. Like, I have them, but they came out for GameCube, so you could only play them up to a Wii. But
Yeah.
same thing of what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, just I grew up on Nintendo. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like kind of like what you said. I love Zelda. I'm not gonna spend $300 to play Zelda.
Right.
I mean,
And there it is. Case in point. You and I both grew up on Nintendo. I think we all grew up on Nintendo
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form. And that's
Yeah.
exactly it. Nintendo's audience is children.
Mhm.
They grow up
But-
with Nintendo, and then when they become teenagers, adolescents, they move to the grown-up systems and they start playing
Yeah.
PC, Xbox, PlayStation, where the
Yeah,
aggressive games
but the
are.
people who grew up 30s now, it's like
You're right, and we've moved on. But Nintendo,
Yeah.
on the same hand, they're the ones who are still driving for those kids. Yeah, it was us when they were the only
Yeah.
ones around, and they stayed
Yeah.
around long enough because we have a new generation of.
Yeah.
I think it'll always be that way.
Yeah, no, you're right. Oh, it's 2016.
So that's 2016,
Boom.
right? So you know what I'm really excited to talk about.
Oh, does it end with a 7?
It does, and it starts with an R. Like an R. No, it's not a.
Arr.
That's my worst pirate I've ever had.
Sid Meier's Pirate Simulator 2017.
Now you're talking. No. I am here to talk about Resident Evil 7.
Preach it, brother.
So, Resident Evil 7, you know the storyline behind Resident Evil. Shame on you. You should at least know something, considering there's been a plethora of Resident Evil movies with Mila Jovovich, and there's a new one coming out this year. Exactly. So, if you don't know anything about Resident Evil, the bottom line here is there's an evil corporation, Umbrella Corp. They have created something called a T-virus. And what happens is this entire city called Raccoon City has been infected with said virus and they become zombies. So this ends up being a story about zombies. We all love zombies. Each installment in the Resident Evil franchise is a different story. They progressively get worse.
I was just gonna say, like, is he gonna be polite or is he gonna be real? I was gonna say, like, with each installment, it gets progressively stupider.
Yes, stupider. I believe that is the correct terminology in explaining how Resident Evil has decided to go about their franchise. It has been an embarrassment for them, and honestly, they probably only have a couple of good titles. I think the last good title they actually had was Resident Evil 5, and that was a new style of gameplay that they were experimenting with, and they continued it with 6, which was an abomination. So, with that being said, Resident Evil 7 was my number one game that I was most anticipating for 2017. And the reason that wasn't on my list is because it's already out. It came out last week, and I've been reviewing it like crazy, so that doesn't count for my most anticipated. But Resident Evil 7, what it is a first-person horror game that is going back to their survival root. Survival, I say it was the definition of survival horror alongside with Silent Hill. It was in Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 specifically. Survival horror meant not having a good direction of where to go, jump scares where zombies would just come out of windows, start busting through things, and you wouldn't expect it. That was kind of their claim to fame, was jump scares. Yeah, and the other thing about it was the scarceness of items, the overall size of your backpack.
That's what she said.
You weren't able to carry a whole lot of things, especially health and bullets, all these things that you needed to safely progress through a horror game. And then over the years, they kind of screwed it up. The horror aspect.
No, it very much is a return to its roots. It got a little action orientated with 4, 5, and 6, and they did release a few side titles, specifically the Revelation series, which was more of a return to roots, and people tended to gravitate towards that. And I feel like Capcom finally realized that people were kind of sick of, like, Resident Evil 6 was, like, pretty comical in its action sequences. So, like, I feel like they felt like a return to their roots was inevitable, and they took it and they jumped on it, and what's that old saying, leaving cash on the table? They saw the popularity of PT and the fact that Konami canceled it, so they saw that empty space and they jumped on it. Hey, good for them, man, because I played all 3 demos. I think it's a fantastic game from what I've played so far.
Yeah,
so
you and I were all all over those demos when they came out because PT was such a big thing when it came to survival horror being a first person and a return to that. And we've actually done some reviews on PT. I've got a full walkthrough on the channel if you want to actually see it in action because it's a game you can't get anymore. And when Resident Evil decided to fill that spot, they couldn't have done a better job hitting a home run. What they did with it is they not only did they go back to their survival horror roots, but they did something new that they've never done before, and that's a first person. So it's almost as if, yeah, they ripped off. I'll say it, whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, people were freaking just feverish over that game, and when it got canceled, people were irate over it. So, you know what? Smart business move. Capcom was like, you know what? That game is never going to see the light of day. Let's capitalize on that.
Yeah, let's make our own. And they made the right move. Not only that, but it was slated to come out after the PlayStation VR, which means this game was made to go with VR. Now, the VR system has only been out since October. There's only been a couple of titles. Nothing jumping out. Not only that, but the VR itself is more expensive with all the accessories in order to make it work than an actual PlayStation. So the idea of a normal casual gamer buying a VR system with no titles is laughable. It's not going to happen, and that's the reason why I still don't have one. Now, it's 2017. Resident Evil 7 comes out. It's a home run. All of these companies are reviewing it, and they're giving it glowing reviews for every reason that they should, because I've been playing it since the midnight release, and I have been playing it in VR specifically. It deserves every glowing recommendation that it's getting. So, while I attempt to take a cold shower and gather myself, let me talk about a few things as to why Resident Evil 7 needs to be on your shelf.
Lay it on me.
Alright, so, the story, I'm not 100% sure what's going on with the story yet. I haven't actually finished it.
How far, or how many hours would you have to guess that you've played so far?
I'm about 4 hours in.
Okay. And I believe I've read online it's about a 12-hour campaign, so you're about a third of the way through.
Yes. No. And the reason I say that is because I have not progressed as much as I had liked to, as much time as I'd put into it, because I am scared shitless. I have reaction videos of me playing this game up on the channel if you want to go ahead and watch those. The jump scares in this game are legit. Now, when I say the VR hasn't been out very long and there haven't been a whole lot of titles for it, I mean that full-heartedly. But when you're in the VR, it is VR. It is virtual reality to the best extent that we know how today. Yeah, the frame rate is a little bit lower than if you were to be on the Oculus Rift for PC, but that is not enough to get me away from VR. What is going on is when you're in this world, like when you turn this game on, the very first thing it asks you is, are you playing in VR? I'm like, yes, I am. Would you like to calibrate the VR? Yes, I would. What is it throws you into this room? It's a demo room just for calibration, and it is the most horrific room you can find yourself in. Like, of all things to do. And it's not like it's a gory room where there's like hanging bodies and blood guts everywhere. It's not like that at all. It's the simplicity of it. You're in a padded room. It looks like an asylum, but it looks like you're in a dungeon asylum, okay? And all you have to do is just navigate in this one room, like look over on this wall at this bloodstain. Look at that bloodstain. It's just calibrating it for you. You're only in this room for, I don't know, a minute and a half top, but it gives you the idea of what's to come. So when you load this game up, the first thing that it is you're sitting in a car. You get to look around and you feel like you're in this car. Like and you can watch these videos. I'm sitting in this car and I'm like looking into the back seat of this car. I'm leaning back and I'm able to see around the side of this seat as if I was leaning back to look around the side of this seat. It's so accurate.
Can you like lean through doorways and like peek through?
Yes.
Nice.
And you have to. You absolutely have to. One of the things that you notice when you play the demo that transferred into this is when you go to open a door, you push on it slightly so it creaks open, and then you can kind of like keep opening the door and walk through it. Or, you can just run right into it and it comes whipping right open. But yeah, you can creep these doors open, and when you do, you can stick your fucking head through the door and look around the corner in any way you want without opening the door all the way. You can look through a window. Like, you can get up onto the windowsill and stick your head up against the glass and look out around the corner actually doing this. There's a spot in one of my videos that I freak out over, not in a scary oh my god kind of way, but more like in a miraculous this is where we're at in a level of technology kind of way. There's a van in the very beginning of the game, and I know the opening sequence of this whole game is just to rev you up to get ready for what's coming. So there's this van. You open up the side of the van and you stick your head in this van, because there's a piece of paper or something on the seat that you have to read. And when you stick your head in this van, you pause for a second and you're like, I'm actually sticking my head in this van. You move your head around, you can like look in between the seats, you can crawl inside this damn van in the VR world. It's insane. The effect that this VR world has on you is so real that you believe you're in it. So with it being a horror game, all the scares are genuine. The fear of not knowing is more scary than the actual jump scare that is about to happen.
How well does that transfer to like the combat sequences or?
Now that's kind of the interesting thing too. The combat, there's two types of combat. There's hand-to-hand combat, or like having a knife or an axe or something, a weapon, and there's shooting. So you get guns. Now with the hand-to-hand combat stuff, like using a knife or an axe, it's your standard hack and slash. Like I'm playing an RPG, kind of swing the axe in front of you. Nothing crazy. When your standard aim is L2 and your shoot is R2, but your actual aiming, the reticle, is with your head. So because I'm in this open world, I'm in this VR world, I can turn my head to the right, I can look behind me if I'm standing up. If I see something over off in the distance at my 2 o'clock position, I can still aim, but instead of using the joystick to position it, I have to actually turn my head and look at what I'm shooting and steady my head to make that shot. You would think it's a little strange, but once you're in it, it's the only way it could happen.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so the scares, like the fear this game actually puts on you is so real because you're in it that there's a couple of scenes that I can think of specifically that spoil anything, so I'll tell you. In fact, it was the first scare that I had. I put a 30-second video up on the channel. There's a part in the very beginning of this where you have to like crawl underneath the house that you're in, and underneath the house there's a bunch of water, so you're walking in neck-high water, and as you're going underneath this house in neck-high water, you really believe as if you're in neck-high water. It's insane. In fact, it actually freaked me out because I was sitting in this chair when I was playing it, and Josh was sitting right next to me watching me and like, you know, kind of holding my hand whenever I freak out or whatever, or just kind of laughing at me when I freak out. I was kind of joking around, and I wanted to taste the water because it felt that real, that when I went to do that gesture, I accidentally hit the couch that was right next to my chair, and I freaked out. I lost my shit, and Josh, of course, was laughing. So, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, there are some reaction videos up on the channel right now, so check those out when you get a chance. I did play it for a couple of minutes outside of the VR just so I could have that sort of transition to see how it would play out.
Yeah.
Not recommended.
Really?
Yeah. So that's kind of where Resident Evil is an interesting set. You can tell that this game is built for VR. If you play this game and you don't have VR and you've never been in it, you're just playing it as it is, it's kind of bland. It's just your standard first-person horror game, like any other one would be. In fact, Rich, the one whose VR I'm borrowing, he can't play it in VR right now, obviously, because I have it. So he started playing it normal, and he'd be sending me some text here and there, and he's like, dude, this game isn't scary at all. I'm actually really bored with it. And I'm like, dude, I'm over here quivering. I could not walk into the house. The very beginning of the game, I could not walk through that front door because it was pure darkness on the other side. I had to have Josh just like talk me through getting this door. It was insane. Like, how is this not the scariest thing in the world? In fact, if they port PT into the VR, I would shit my pants. I would soil myself on camera for the world to see, because I know for a fact I would not be able to survive that.
So it doesn't feel like a gimmick or anything? Like, just like something tacked on at the last minute?
No, and that's what I was absolutely afraid for, too. The thing is the difference between, like, the Oculus Rift for PC and the PlayStation VR. The PlayStation VR uses the camera to track your head motions, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of using like an accelerometer that the Galaxy ones are using. This one actually tracks your head. The whole piece that you're wearing is fully lit. And what I mean by that is on the face of it, it has 6 light sensors. On the side of it, it has light sensors. On the very tip top, like on your forehead, off side of the actual thing has a sensor. And on the back of the head has a couple of sensors. So you can do a full 360. You don't have to be in a certain position for this to work. You can move freely in this this open world. So the accuracy of what you're doing in it is spot on. So no,
So
it's not a
do
gimmick.
you feel you'd be as enamored with Resident Evil 7 if you had started the non VR route and then tried VR, as opposed to you starting in VR and then just trying it normally?
Now, Rich and I were talking about that exact question because he started out of VR and I started in VR.
Mhm.
Where we ended with that is Rich is no longer playing the game until he gets his VR back.
All right.
Right. I made the right choice here by starting in VR. Now, in order to fully embrace this game and experience everything it has to offer, and what it has to offer is the best scares you could ever get, it's only going to happen in VR. So I feel that if you were to play this game outside of VR before getting in it, you already know what's going to happen. You know where all the scares are. You know what to be prepared for. You know what to do next. VR is going to be nothing but a gimmick to you.
All right.
So what I'm saying when it comes to Resident Evil 7 is play this game. It is amazing. It is by far the best thing that I have seen in a long ass time, but it's only with VR. If you don't have a VR, don't play it.
How would you, because I know you've played a lot of Resident Evil games, how would you rank it within the franchise? Is it top 3, top 5?
I would definitely put it in my top 5.
All right.
My number 1, and I know we've talked about this in the past because we have our own separate ranking system for our Resident Evil games. Mine is Nemesis, number 3.
Yep.
Reason for that was because, you're being chased by this unkillable entity, and it's frightening. You never know when he's going to come out next. You don't know what's going to happen, and you can't kill him. That's what happens with this game. You have that same person, that same thing you can't kill is walking around looking for you. So whatever you're trying to do, you've got to remember somebody is out there trying to grab you. And when you're immersed in this 3D world, it actually feels like somebody's out there looking for you and could be around the corner at any minute. It's freaky. What was your favorite Resident Evil?
Gotta be 2, man. I mean, that was the sole reason I got a PlayStation 1 way back in the day, man. Like that was my first. I think every kid has that experience when they get a new system for Christmas game, but you don't realize, oh, I need a memory card. So like I didn't have a memory card, so I replayed the first half of the game. I don't even know how many times. Like it's just. Yep. No, like the back of my hand, and I remember the same thing happening with the Dreamcast. Played the first couple levels of Sonic. I don't even know how many times, but I got to go for Resident Evil 2, man. I
hear you. I'm actually the same way with 3. Like I know the exact way to get started in the PlayStation and everything, but that cannot transfer over to 7, unfortunately. And what I mean is VR versus no VR.
Okay.
If you were to start up this game normally, play through it, enjoy it in your own way, and then you're like, oh hey, I can try it in VR now, I just got one, or I'm borrowing a buddy's, and you start playing it from beginning to end, you already know what's happening. You know what's going to come. It's a gimmick at that point, and it's fun, but it doesn't have the same scare tactic that it does from the unknown.
Do you feel does it feel like its own entity, or do you feel like it copies Outlast too much, or what do you feel the balance is?
I think it's its own entity. The entity of Outlast was being in the dark and only being able to see with a video camera and not having a weapon to defend yourself.
Okay.
That's kind of like Fatal Frame, and that's its own entity. Whereas Resident Evil, it's a Resident Evil game. You have guns, you have a flamethrower, you have puzzles you have to solve. You have all of these same things. It's a Resident Evil game, but it focuses more on horror than it did the action and combat that so many of the sequels ended up going.
See, and that was my chief concern going into Resident Evil 7, that it will just be an Outlast clone. Like there's 2 enemies for the whole game, and you're basically just time. So that's kind of refreshing to know that you can fight back. There are enemies, there are weapons, so that's good to hear.
Yep. I've also come up with a couple of tricks in my head to help me through the horror of the VR unknown world. The one thing I notice is the game focuses heavily on this family. There's a dad, a mom, a brother, and a grandmother, or a sibling, not a brother, but a male sibling. And each one of these family members of this house that you're staying at, they're all trying to get you, but they're not all trying to get you at the same time. The programming in this, if you think about it from a programming standpoint and what triggers what in a certain sequence of code, you think that that you know that each segment is its own thing. For example, chapter 1, you're dealing with the dad. That's the only family member of the family members, not chapter 1. But when you start dealing with the family members, you start dealing with dad. Everybody else is gone. You don't know what they're doing. Sure, you run into him here and there, but they're not after you like he is. Once you finish him, and by finish him I mean move on, you move on to the mother. So she's the only one you have to worry about in this next chapter sequence. After you finish her, you move on to the brother. So I mean,
are there other enemies besides the family?
Yes.
Or is it just strictly okay?
Yes, and that's kind of what I was also getting at too. So like the when you're going through this whole thing and you know that there's one entity out there that's chasing after you, kind of like Resident Evil 3 with the Nemesis, there are still enemies in the world you have to worry about. There are still like flying bugs, like weird bug things that will hurt you. There are no zombies in this game. There are no zombies.
Really?
There's no zombies in this game.
So it's a new virus or something.
Yeah, in fact, it's really strange. Like at the same time, what they're doing is they're starting fresh with something brand new. There are no zombies in this game whatsoever. It's this new virus, but this new virus can be cured, I think, or at least where I'm at in the story, that's what I'm looking for. And I'm talking to one of the family members, and they're like, you have to get this serum or whatever, and you'll be fine. But this thing that turns you, you don't think about it, you don't want it, you don't know it. And right now, it's only these guys. So the enemies that are in this are like this tar creature that looks like a liquor, but stands upright.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, and they're like black and tar instead of the classic red of an actual liquor, but they look the same. So if you take a liquor and you stand it upright, you take away the tongue, you turn it to a black tar, that's pretty much what it is. It's still creepy, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And they just materialize out of nowhere. It could be anywhere.
Oh.
In fact, if you played the demo, the third demo, it's in the basement.
Oh, okay, so it's kind of like that enemy.
It's exactly that enemy.
Oh, yeah, because I remember him scaring the absolute shit out of me in the demo.
Yep, and how he just materializes and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happens.
Oh, great.
But in a much, much more horrifying way. And at quantity.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, Resident Evil 7, it's amazing. It's great for what it is. They did a great job at rebooting the series, turning it into something viable. I can see this going on for quite a while if they stick to it and stick to this method. Don't fuck with it anymore.
That was my question I was going to ask you. Would you, going forward, Resident Evil 8 or whatever it's called, would you prefer that to be first person, or would you retain like the oppressive tone of 7, but maybe it could be third person, or do you want it to going forward stay first person?
I really like the first person. I really, really do.
Right.
In fact, most games right now are first person. I mean, you've got like the Far Cry's first person shooters, Destiny, most exploration games. There are a lot of them are first person shooters or first person as they are. So when you kind of find a game that's a third person, like an adventure game, for example, it sets you off. You're like, you have to reshift your brain for a minute and get used to the different gameplay, I really like the first person, and I wish it would stay that way. Just give me more puzzles and give me the scare factor. Give me more of PT. That's what we want.
Cool.
Is it worth it? Absolutely, it's worth it. If you have a pre-existing access to VR, shame on you if you haven't purchased it yet. It is worth $60 if you have a VR.
Okay.
If you don't, wait for it to drop in price.
Well, that's fair. I look forward to playing it.
Yeah. In fact, keep an eye on our channel if it's not out already by the time you're listening to this podcast, because you should be listening to this early on and not 6 months out. Guys, come on. Listen to us. Follow us. Like us. Share us. So yeah, if you pay attention to our channel, I've got a couple of special videos up there of VR reactions to Resident Evil 7. So please check them out, see what they're about. They're a lot of fun. I put a lot of time and effort into making them, so the least you can do is just humor me. So yeah, for last month, what we've kind of been doing. Right now, we can only really see so many months ahead of us, and we're kind of taking it as we go. But some things that we can look forward to next month. Mike, you're going to be taking a look at Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm actually really looking forward to watching that.
Yep, I plan on doing a midnight stream, so yeah, I'm excited for that game.
Yeah, I'm really excited for it. I unfortunately can't get it as soon as you are getting it because we kind of trade off, you know? Like I got Resident Evil
Yeah,
this month, you're getting it next month.
yeah. I kind of had to choose between Resident Evil and Zero Dawn, and I don't know. My money just went towards that one. So
Which is the better choice for all of us.
yeah. I mean, you kind of raised a valid point. I mean, if you don't got VR, you should probably just wait for a price drop for 7
Correct.
for Resident Evil 7. So.
Absolutely correct.
And kind of like how I mentioned earlier, I'm a sucker for new IPs. I love new series. I mean, because you never know what's going to be the next big one. So, yeah, I'm going to do a midnight stream of that. So that should be pretty fun. Other than that, February, I know you're really excited for Nihon.
Nio.
Damn it. I ruined it.
Yeah. No, you're fine. Yeah, no, I'm really excited for that one. Like I said, we've been going over the beta for that. That one looks amazing. I've got quite a few of those videos up on the channel too, mostly me dying, because that happens a lot. So yeah, we also have For Honor coming out next month, which is the
Nice.
beta that we discussed earlier. So I'm looking forward to. I'm gonna get one of those at full price, and we'll do a midnight stream of one of those as well. It's just whichever one I get first, alongside of your Horizon.
Right on, right on.
Yep. In fact, the main effect is Mass Effect in March.
Oh, slip of the tongue.
That's how it works. A buddy of mine, Eric Miller from Revlon, will be joining us for that one because he's a big Mass Effect fan, so I'm sure he's got a lot of insight for that. What else is in March?
I haven't really looked that far ahead, but I'm pretty sure Mass Effect is probably the big release of the month.
Yeah. April, we got Injustice 2 coming out. It's a DC fighter game. Good guys, bad guys, DC related. Should be pretty awesome. It plays kind of like Mortal Kombat, except it's nerdy, kind of like me. In fact, I'm not going to be grabbing that one, but a friend of mine who's been on not one of our shows, but has been in one of our reaction videos, again, on our channel, check it out. Erica, she'll be getting Injustice 2. Give that one kind of a go when it comes out. She'll also be joining us on the podcast to talk about it a little bit, too. But that's about as far as I can think of right now, all the way up to April. I mean, I know more things are coming out over the year, but we can really only predict so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be until June and E3 when we get a good look at the last half of the year.
Yeah, and that'll be a pretty special episode too. I'm really excited for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what else you got? Anything you want to say, throw in?
No, not really, man. I mean, it's freaking been a pretty busy month, and we got some good games coming up.
True. We got a lot coming up, so stick with us. Go ahead and follow us. We're on Facebook, YouTube, soon to be on Instagram. We just opened up a new Twitter. We also have a website you can find us on. Everything is at Casual Critics. It's with a Z, so you kind of have to do that because we're 90s. We run with a Z. You can find some of my stuff. I'm at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You can find me at The Real Anthony Dane. I do a lot of cosplay, and I got a couple of things coming up you might want to take a look at. In fact, in 2 weeks, Mike, I haven't told you about this one yet. I have I've got a photo shoot coming up where I'm doing a role reversal for Sherlock Holmes.
Ooh.
Yeah, so it's going to be Sherlock and Watson are going to be portrayed as a female. We have the actors for that. And then I will be playing, what the fuck is her name? It's Rachel McAdams' character from the movies.
You sly boots.
I know, right? And Eric will be joining us for the another character's reversal. And we got one other person, the professor, in there too. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be releasing those. Josh unfortunately couldn't join us tonight, but if you want to follow him, it's at Josh Bratton, Bratton2180. All of these will be in the meta too, so you can find us all. Mike, what's yours?
Which one? Facebook?
All of them. I just gave everybody else.
Facebook, Mike Linetti. Instagram, M Linetti. I'm on PSN as Vacus Deus. I don't really play a lot of multiplayer, mostly single player. And Twitter is, I believe, M Linetti. So sure, why not?
Attaboy. So yeah. Find us, follow us, do what you want. We'll keep releasing stuff until you like us. So like, share, subscribe. Keep us going so we can keep doing some more stuff like this.
Do it.
Smoke.
Well, that's all I got. What about you, bud?
Are you smoking?
No, I'm golden.
Cool. Well, then until next month.
See ya.
Ta-ta.